The bench had been there longer than anyone could remember, its paint chipped by time, its iron legs scarred by rust and rain, quietly watching the world pass by without ever being noticed. On that cold evening, as the sky folded itself into shades of gray and blue, that forgotten bench was about to witness a moment so small it seemed invisible, yet so powerful it would quietly change two lives forever. Some beginnings do not arrive with noise or celebration. They arrive softly, like a held breath, waiting to be felt rather than heard. If you believe that kindness can change a life, that broken moments can become second chances, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them most. Ayan had not planned to stop at the park that evening. He had been walking without direction, letting the weight of another failed day press against his chest, letting the city lights blur into meaningless shapes. Life had slowly cornered him into exhaustion. Once full of ambition, once convinced that effort alone could build a future, he now carried rejection letters in his memory like scars. Work opportunities had slipped away, relationships had faded under the pressure of disappointment, and his sense of worth felt thinner with each passing week. When his legs finally gave in to fatigue, the bench was simply there, offering rest without judgment. He sat down heavily, staring at the ground, unaware that this pause would become the most important moment of his life. The park was nearly empty, except for the soft whisper of leaves and the distant sound of traffic. The bench felt cold beneath him, yet strangely grounding, as if it were reminding him that he was still present, still breathing, still part of the world. He closed his eyes briefly, allowing memories to surface without resistance. Dreams of a stable life, of being someone his younger self would admire, played through his mind like scenes from a film he could no longer enter. The silence around him mirrored the silence he felt inside, a quiet that was not peaceful but heavy with unanswered questions. On the other end of the bench, unnoticed at first, sat Sarah. She had arrived earlier, carrying her own invisible weight. Her life had been shaped by responsibility far too early, by sacrifices made without applause. She had learned to be strong because she had no choice, learned to keep moving even when grief and fear followed closely behind. That day had been especially hard. A long shift, a phone call that reopened old wounds, and the constant pressure of holding herself together had pushed her toward the park, toward a place where she could sit without having to explain herself. The bench did not ask who she was or why her eyes carried sadness. It simply held her. Time passed slowly, almost deliberately, as if the universe wanted them to sit in that shared silence a little longer. The air grew colder, and the park lights flickered on, casting long shadows across the ground. Ayan shifted slightly, noticing for the first time that he was not alone. He sensed another presence, not intrusive, not demanding, but real. There was comfort in that awareness, a reminder that even in loneliness, connection could exist quietly. Sarah felt it too, the subtle recognition of another human being sharing the same fragile space, breathing the same cold air, carrying unseen stories. Neither of them spoke. There was no exchange of names, no forced conversation, no attempt to impress or explain. Yet something began to change within them. Ayan felt his thoughts slow down, his chest loosen just enough to allow a deeper breath. Sarah felt the constant tension in her shoulders ease slightly, as if the bench itself was absorbing some of her burden. The world had not changed, their problems had not disappeared, but the act of sitting together without expectation created a moment of peace that neither had felt in a long time. As days turned into weeks, that bench became a quiet meeting point, though neither of them ever planned it. Sometimes Ayan arrived first, sometimes Sarah. Sometimes they sat together, sometimes one arrived as the other was leaving. Still, the connection remained. There was a comfort in familiarity, in recognizing the same worn coat, the same thoughtful posture, the same quiet presence. Without words, they acknowledged each other's existence, and that acknowledgement alone began to rebuild something broken inside them both. Ayan started to look forward to those moments. They gave his days a small anchor, something steady in a life that felt unstable. He began to reflect differently, not with self-blame, but with honesty. Sitting on the bench allowed him to observe his thoughts without drowning in them. He realized that his failures did not define his worth, that the pauses in life were not endings but spaces for growth. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, he began to apply for opportunities again, not with desperation, but with renewed belief. Sarah too felt a shift. The bench became a place where she could release the strength she was always forced to carry. Watching the world move around her reminded her that she did not have to rush her healing, that it was okay to sit still and feel everything she had been avoiding. She began to smile more, not out of politeness, but because something within her was healing. The silent companionship offered reassurance that she was not alone in her struggles, even if no one spoke them aloud. One evening, rain began to fall unexpectedly. The park emptied quickly, people running for shelter, but Ayan and Sarah stayed. The bench grew wet, the air sharp with cold, yet neither moved. The rain felt symbolic, washing over the past, blurring the edges of pain. For the first time, their eyes met fully, holding each other's gaze without fear. In that moment, something unspoken passed between. An understanding deeper than words. They shared a small, genuine smile, the kind that carries gratitude, recognition, and hope all at once. From that day forward, the silence between them felt different. It was no longer heavy but warm, filled with possibility. Their presence in each other's lives became intentional. They began to walk through the park together, their steps naturally aligning. Life still challenged them, still tested their patience and resilience, but they faced it with a new sense of strength. They were no longer carrying their burdens alone. The bench, once ignored, had become a witness to transformation. It had offered rest to weary souls, space for reflection, and the unexpected gift of connection. Ayan found work again, not immediately perfect, but meaningful enough to restore his confidence. Sarah began to pursue dreams she had buried under responsibility, allowing herself to imagine a future shaped by choice rather than obligation. Their journeys were not identical, but they were intertwined by the quiet understanding born on that bench. As time passed, the bench remained their starting point, a reminder of where healing began. It symbolized the truth that life does not always change in grand moments, but in small, overlooked pauses where hearts are open enough to receive what they need. It taught them that sometimes, the most powerful support comes not from advice or promises, but from simply being present. If this story has touched your heart, if it reminded you of a moment when kindness or quiet companionship made a difference in your life, please take a second now to like this video, share it with someone who might need hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps keep these stories alive and reaching those who need them. Before the story ends, we would love to hear from you. Please comment below and share what this bench symbolizes to you, or a moment when something small changed your life in a big way. The bench still stands in the park, weathered and quiet, blending into the background of daily life. Most people pass it without a glance, unaware of the stories it holds. But for Ayan and Sarah, it will always be more than wood and iron. It is proof that even the most ordinary places can become the beginning of something extraordinary, that healing often starts when we least expect it, and that sometimes all it takes is one bench, one pause, and one shared moment to change everything.